Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our next session of Automation Days Asia 2022. In this session, I have the incredible pleasure to introduce Bryan Lee, who's the Sales Vice President at Matrix Invent based here in Malaysia.
Yep.
In this session, Bryan is going to talk about the criticality of IT and OT data convergence for industrial automation. As you will see, he has prepared a very engaging session where he will share how organizations can transform by using some of the latest automation technology. Bryan, it's a real pleasure to have you here today, and the
Yep.
floor
Thank
is
you.
all yours.
Thank you. Yep. Hi. Good day and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for your time. Joining me today. Yeah. So just a brief introduction of myself. My name is Bryan. I'm a Sales VP for Matrix Invent. So yeah, the topic today is a critically of IT and OT data convergence for industrial automation. So I think before I move into that, the topic of the discussion today is good. I think I just share a bit about my experience, throughout my career. I've been with, in the when the early stage, I was in enterprise information management space, which is, that so those are managing those unstructured information and become a structured information, which is unstructured is from those like fax, emails, voicemail, pictures. Those are unstructured, and massage them and put it into something that is useful, that can be consumed by the system. So I've been starting from the technical perspective. There is more on the IT, and eventually I've been implemented over more than hundreds projects. And for the past 10 years, I've been moving into the commercial. Okay, and this is, of course, this is a whole different thing from what I'm doing in the past. But of course, the IT and the OTs today is converged together. Okay, converge together, and the IT will need to use the OT data to make it become something is meaningful and useful for the business decision, as well as to improve the processes and reduce the cost of the production. Okay, so and about the Matrix Invent, we have been in the market for 29 years, and focusing on three key areas: in business process automation, industrial automation, and cybersecurity and connectivity. All right, so we are a value-added distributor and services for APAC with a 30 strong workforce covering Southeast Asia, partners in China, HK, Taiwan, and Korea. And as you can see, there's a bottom there. There is a Hive MQ, Canary, OpenText, Novacon, Imperial. Those are our partners. Like for example, Hive MQ is actually the market leader of the MQTT broker. Canary Labs is a time series database, and also the visualization. So what does it do is that is actually to capture those data that is coming from the IoT, from the sensors, from the machines, PLC, and visualize it on the dashboard, and also allow the engineer to do the trending. And OpenText is actually a connectivity solutions to allow the engineers to work remotely, where they can remote access to the SCADA system or any kind of engineering drawing solutions. And Novacon is actually a Taiwanese-based edge gateway, all right, to connecting the devices of the old standard to become a new protocol that can be merged, could be what I call the integrating with some of the IT solution or IT enterprise application. And finally, Imperial, we do understand that the importance of the data, but how much the quality of the data is very important. So Imperial is actually a machine learning with an AI capability to detect the quality and the integrity of the data that it sends from the devices and machines. All right. So that is the overall of my company. Okay. All right, and when it comes into the IT OT convergence, so I was just good for me to actually go through the agenda today, what I'm going to talk about, and I'm trying to relate back what's the criticality of doing that, right? To have the IT OT convergence. So I will do an introduction about it. All right, IT and OT convergence. So IT is informational technology, and OT is operational technology. So let's put it as simple. So IT is those that we know. If you have ERP system, if let's say in a manufacturing environment, you have a ERP system, you have a CRM, or it could be a SCADA system, or it could be even a time series database. So it's considered IT. And OT could be at the shop floor where you have like those sensors, you have the PLC, you have all those like IoT devices. So those are actually operational tech, or maybe HMI, you know, that where the panel that you can see the machines performance and what they are doing, right? And then by having that converged together, what is the benefits? What's the use case for that, and what's the benefits of that? But in order to benefit from it, of course, there is some challenges. All right. So as you know, that I mentioned earlier, we are actually from a technology people. So what we can share with you is that from technology perspective, how does we can use the technology to make the to smoothen out that actually the transformation, all right, to converge these both different world of data comes together. Okay. And yeah, of course, when we want to achieve that, we need to have a decoupled architecture, right, to address those challenges of technology. And of course, that is when we come into the what kind of technology we're talking about here. There is MQTT, which I'm going to go through what is MQTT all about. And then if for the small enterprises, so how do they actually can start that, you know? So we're going to touch on that as well. Okay. So introduction. So IT, OT, data convergence is an integration of those data, information, IT and OT together. And IT system are data-centric computing. OT are more into system monitors, events, processes, and devices, and make adjustment in the enterprise industrial operation. So it is a very, very high level of what is an IT, OT convergence all about. And why do we want to have those converge together? If you know that in the past that, well, most of the manufacturing that we know today, especially all those small, medium enterprise, maybe for the electronics industry, they are more advanced, they are more ahead, all right? Or maybe automotive, they are more ahead. But there is a lot of a small, medium industry, which they are still the IT infrastructures and the OT infrastructures is actually at the different kind of network. If let's say look at the from the network perspective, so they are not interconnected to each other, so they kind of silo. Okay, so whatever the data that is in the OT, they have to still manually record it down in a data sheet and pass it to the IT or the enterprise. Let's say, for example, one of the scenarios is that, okay, in the operational floor, when there are certain raw material have been used, all right, they have to record it down and then eventually pass it through the procurement and to do the ordering to replenish those what we call raw material. So there is actually everything is being done manually. But what if those data could be automatically sent through the enterprise application such as ERP and to trigger the just-in-time ordering, all right? So that it will eliminating the manual processes here. Okay, so what's the benefit of the IT-OT convergence for manufacturing? It enabled the organization to be more cost and resource efficient by using sales and inventory data to drive the manufacturing operation and optimizing the equipment power use while minimizing the maintenance and so inventory. And utility and energy is more focusing on the ability to remotely to look at those assets. Okay, what is the operational condition at this moment, and what is the predictive or preventive maintenance that they require to ensure those assets in a proper condition. Okay, because those assets will actually is as its name asset, they will actually any interruption to those assets will actually interruption to the production. Okay, and communication and media, say for example, is also the same thing. Is talking about the asset, right, to oversee the performance of the operation of those equipment. Okay, so as you can see here, basically the convergence of the IT and OT is not really just a specific on certain industry, but basically a lot of other industry that you in these three examples here beneficial from the IT and OT convergence. Okay. So what are those challenges? I think I mentioned earlier the IT OT unbalance, different priorities, such as like the security and tolerance of failures are different. In IT, say for example, you got to have your operating system up to date, and your application need to up to date, your antivirus need to up to date, and so many things you need to up to date and ensure that your network is secure. Okay, but in OT, they are different priority. What is a key things for them is they don't have a tolerance for failure. All right, they things that doesn't things are not broken, it shouldn't be touched at all. You shouldn't be doing any upgrade at all because it's running. Okay, so these are some of the expectation from in terms of the IT and OT. Okay, and in IT, off-the-shelf software and protocols are quite open, and in OT, there's a lot of protocol hardware and software which is running on their own protocols. So it make it the integration or the convergence even more tougher. Okay. Brownfield versus greenfield. Brownfield is that those are they're having old machines, and some of the mix with some of the new machines, so make it very difficult to converge them together. And of course, greenfield is actually the latest technological that is available. So of course, greenfield is the most ideal, but not all the enterprises or organization will have that the monetary resources to upgrade everything else, right? So, and then the system silo, different infrastructures, and data is at their own system itself, is not integrating or is not even connected to the network. Yeah. And emergence of the cloud, so it also become one of the so-called challenges. All right, how does those data could be the organization want to tap into the beneficial using the cloud solutions, such as from the Azure, for the AWS, from the Google, and from OT, how those data can be transferred to those cloud, and it will become a challenge as well. And is sufficient budget? Yep, that mentioned earlier. So not many organizations have that budget to actually upgrade everything, and also the skill gap. Skill gap means each internally, do you have the team, digital transformation team who knows on the IT and OT and merge them together? Yeah, so it becomes all these are become a challenges. But again, is that of course there is so many challenges that you need to address. But today's I will be much more focusing on the technology, because I'm sure that if you are able to address this technological perspective, there is other area will be less challenging for you. Okay. All right. So this is most common architecture. All right, that we are seeing in most of the manufacturing or even the power or utilities. So on the left hand side, you can see you have some sort of devices, sensors, OPC UA, Modbus. All those are actually OPC UA. All these are protocol, and Modbus also a protocol. And then for the OT, for the OT operational technology, then you have a digital input, you have an analog input. And as you can see here, this is a gateway. You might have already some of the organization will have a gateway, the edge gateway actually connecting the OT and the IT. Of course, this part is very important, that you must have a gateway, and you must have a standard where this OT and IT could connect together. So first thing is that the infrastructure must be there, right? So and of course there are some PLCs already IP capable, and also the devices is already IP capable, where you can connect them to your enterprise applications, such as like a SCADA, MES, historian, analytics, and applications. So and if let's say this example, you can see there is all messing around. This is I would call this a spaghetti connectivity. Yeah, it looks like a spaghetti, right? So let's say I want to have a look at, I want to store those data, and I want to visualize those data from this device and sensor, so which is connecting to the gateway one, say for example. So you need to have create what they call a separate connectivity to the historian, okay, or maybe to the analytics, okay. And then if the same data again that I need to push into some other application, I need to create another connectivity to application. So as you can see, a lot of expenses will be spent in just to establish all this connection, okay. So you spend the money of a customization, transform the protocol that the analytics can understand or the historian can understand. And then if any of the changes of this system itself, then you are in trouble because of all those connectivity need to redo again. So a lot of resources being spent there. Okay, so what you really need here is you need to do a decoupled architecture. It means that you have to have one single protocol, single language. It means that everyone talking the same language. That you don't have to create a separate connectivity, separate language, or separate protocol to each different application. Okay, so as you can see here, this is what it calls a decoupled architecture. And in a decoupled architecture is that everything is connecting to the single broker. I will call this as a post office. All right, so where all these messages are being sent over and subscribed over by the respective application. Okay, so the MQTT, the message queue telemetry transport. So is the decoupled architecture protocol or the standards that we are most organizations we are, or especially in the IoT, become a standard protocol for the IoT. So of course, there is some other protocol that IoT could be talking about, or IIoT talking about, like OPC-UA, and MQTT. But this is one of the leading in terms of the IoT protocol. Okay, so it is the decoupled client broker. Publish and subscribe protocol, extensible and reliable. All right. Why is MQTT is so popular in use for especially for IoT and IIoT is because it's the bandwidth requirement is very small and the packet is very small. In terms of the messages packet that it can send from the IoT and IoT very small, and it can be run even in a very small microcontrollers. Okay, so and of course, because of the small packet itself, so it can be actually transfer the message over the unreliable network. Okay, so if you look at MQ itself, how it was all start back is actually from the oil and gas pipeline monitoring. Okay, so those in 1999, so IBM, one of the IBM engineers, actually they need to to publish all those information from the sensors from the pipeline to the SCADA system. So and they created this MQTT. Okay, and how this MQTT works is actually based on the smart sensors. Let's say on the smart sensors, you have a publish. Okay, publish a message to the broker. Okay, the broker here is a Hive MQ, is a broker. So we are the partners of Hive MQ anyway. So and then on your right hand side will be other subscriber. Either your subscriber could be a machine or it could be even an application. Okay, so you have a publish and subscribe. Okay, but even then, all the benefits of using an MQTT, you still have challenges because devices and endpoints may have a different topics, payloads, and data structure. Okay, so whatever means that whatever I'm going to tell you here might be not what you understand. Okay, the application assuming specific formats and structure. So the application will I got to have in this kind of format. So if you want to tell me that this is Celsius, so you have to put me 36 Celsius, not 360, but the sensors are sending them 360. So I don't understand, right? So data agnostic payload must be interpreted, but no context. Okay. So therefore, in this Eclipse is a foundation for the MQTT. We call it Sparkplug. Okay. So what these things do is that they are actually using MQTT and they define the unified namespace. Okay. So means that they are all talking the same languages. Okay. And as for your info, Sparkplug B already have been in what they call that, a lot of manufacturers who's in the the machine manufacturers, or even application, enterprise application, they already agree to standardize the Sparkplug B as the namespace, okay, for the information exchange. Okay, so therefore, if you look at here again, so with Sparkplug B, then you have all the gateway will actually send out the messages in a Sparkplug B MQTT format, and they will be sending to the MQTT broker. published to the MQTT broker and subscribed by the respective application. Okay, so everybody is talking the same language. There is not so much of like I have to customize and different protocol or different messaging format for every individual application. Yeah, so simplify your messaging system and how the data is being transferred. Then, of course, is that beside that, one thing good about this HiveMQ or the MQTT Sparkplug is that high availability is 100% MQTT compliant, scalability to millions of devices, and observability. You can look at the status of those sensors. And of course, in order to comply for the OT to the IT, it is enterprise. We have an enterprise security. It means that all the data messages can be transferred through the SSL TLS, which is encrypted. Okay, and then of course that with the MQTT Sparkplug B, you have the integration OT of IT system made simplify, and importantly, it can be run on Kubernetes, Azure, Amazon Web Services, or Google Platform, or OpenShift, or it can be run at the local on-premise system for HiveMQ. Okay. So this is one of the example that how the integration with the Azure from HiveMQ, where you can on the left hand side you can see on the on-premise you may have already HiveMQ system in place, and which is going to be send those Sparkplug messages to the cloud-based HiveMQ, and eventually it can send to the event hubs of the Azure, and eventually go to the data lake, and from there you can do the data analytics, machine learning. You can use the machine learning to do the necessary to understand how your data structure looks like, and you can also to do the predictive maintenance with all the data that are available right from the Azure. And it's the same thing that you can do also with the Google, and yeah. And for your info is that it used to be like a Google also providing this MQTT broker capability inside the Google Cloud, but they eventually they already what they call the end of life. And it's good that if any organization out there or any of you are still using a Google Cloud MQTT and you're looking for a replacement, the HiveMQ should be the one of the the ideal solution for that. Okay. Okay. So yeah, with with all that I mentioned here is that uh, maybe it's for SME, it might be something that is very difficult, especially if let's say it's a small manufacturing, and how do you really start that? Okay, where do you start? How can I really improve my production? How can I really ensure the assets in good condition so that they won't go down, and then I have to stop my production line, and eventually will actually impact also my production. Okay, so it's always good that to start the converging of the IT and OT infrastructure. Means that you have your shop floor, means that on your production floor, to have a connectivity with the IT. Okay, so you need to have an infrastructure ready. Okay, and then you acquiring the data from those machines or those sensors for the domain knowledge development. Okay, so it means that you may not have the insight or the domain knowledge at this moment. How are you going to improve those those machines, say for example, or maybe those processes? Okay, so but it's always good that you acquire those data for the future. How you're going to improve that? All right, and then improvement over time with inside of the process, the one that I mentioned earlier. Okay, so that's also why Matrix IoT Solutions, which is our company, will provide these solutions for the small, medium-sized enterprises or the manufacturers who are looking forward to, would modernize their factory or their manufacturing plant or their infrastructures. Okay, or even you can building agriculture. So basically, we are kind of industrial. They are not focusing on specific industrial, but we are open up to all other industrial. And what happened is that the solutions that we are using here is the solutions that we are carrying. Like say for example, on the IoT sensors, so we have solutions that detect the temperature or humidity or smoke sensors, say for example, okay, and then using the LoRa one and send it through the GPS network or the 5G network or the 4G network, whatever it is, and then to using the Sparkplug B MQTT and send it all over to the cloud, which is hosted on our data center. Okay, and this data will be visualized and create a trending for the subscriber. Okay, for our subscriber to look into. Okay, say for example, so this is the screens where we are providing to the subscriber so that they can look at all those condition of the machines, and even if let's say we have a template that for a specific industry, but if let's say the subscriber would like to have a different template, is something that we can provide as a service as well. Okay, and how much how much this is a question, so how much that we need to invest to have this functionality. It can be as low as 25 ringgit, all right, a month, which is about $6. All right, about $6 a month. Okay, and importantly is that those data will be stored inside the system for 12 months. And if let's say you require more than that, that is something we can discuss further. All right, and on the cloud, so no maintenance required from your end. Industry such as warehousing, agriculture, the building management. This is a great ideal that you can, for the industry can think about. Okay, and then we are developing using a ready and industrial leading solution. So we are not like um, 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 building up from scratch. Say for example, I acquiring those data into a Tableau, and then I using a Grafana to illustrate that. We are not doing that. We are using whatever the ready industrial leading solution, such as HiveMQ and also the Canary Labs to do the data visualization, also the messaging system. Okay. Yep. So that's all from me. If I'm looking forward if there's any question from the floor, that would like me to answer. If I'm able to answer, if I'm not able to answer, is always welcome to drop me an email, or you can leave your email behind that I can revert back to you.
Thanks, Bryan. This was an absolutely fantastic presentation. I
Thank you.
actually learned quite a lot myself, so that was very, very interesting.
Yeah. No problem.
While you were talking, I saw a couple of questions coming in. First question that I would like to discuss with you,
Yeah.
and let me put it on the screen. You can stop the sharing or put
Yeah.
it back.
Sorry. Yeah.
No worries. The first question is, let me project it on the screen right now, is how does one get started to do automation in ITOT? What are the prerequisites?
Yeah. Okay. I think one of the prerequisites in terms of the getting started to do automation IoT. Okay. So I think this is going back to the earlier that I mentioned, is that there is all available technologies available that in the market. Like say for example, you can for MQTT perspective, is that from HiveMQ is that we have the module that to ensure all those those devices being authenticate, okay, to the broker. Means that they need to ensure those devices is authenticated, okay, and then they're
Okay.
authorized to send those data to the broker and eventually go to the enterprise application, okay, and ensure the data in transmit is secure. They have a SSL and TLS.
Okay.
Yep. So I hope that answers your questions. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that
Yeah.
that makes it a lot of sense. Hope that that's clear, Bryan. You can always ask a follow-up question in the chat again. That will be great.
Yeah.
Then the next question is coming in from Kim. How do we address automation security aspects in the ITOT space?
Yeah, I thought that I answered these questions earlier, or is it a different question?
That's the previous question was on the yeah, where do we get started? But it's kind of a similar question, I
Yeah.
think. If you want
Yeah.
to,
I think going back to the same answer again, just now I mentioned earlier, is that we because I don't know how's your environments look like, Kim. So in order to answer that question, is that I think it's important that we understand how's your current architecture look like. But I can explain from our MQTT perspective or Hive MQ perspective is that as I mentioned earlier, we need to ensure the integrity of the device that is sending the data over, and also to ensure that the data transmit to the MQTT broker at time is actually secure. Okay, is actually is using the SSL TLS to encrypt those the data in transmission, and eventually as well as when it from the broker sent to the application itself, it also must be secure. Right. So those
Yeah.
are
So
the
your data transfer part is actually being encrypted along the way.
correct,
Is that correct?
correct, exactly.
Okay, I think that's a very good point, and also in these days and ages, quite a necessary point as well.
Yeah. Actually, in fact, is that it's true that even like I mentioned that we are also a partner to the Imperial. What this Imperial did is that they are ensure the data integrity as well. Means that even those data are encrypted, so I have another layer to tell that, hey, I may not be believing you entirely. I want to have another check to analyze using the machine learning to analyze, is this something wrong? Is this somebody inject some fake data, okay, or fake messages across along this transmission, So these are actually able to do as well. This is another layer of doing that. But usually the Apiro, they are more focusing on the data quality instead of data integrity.
Good, very good.
Yep.
Thanks so much, Brian. I think if I look at the questions, I think that that's the set of questions that was out there for you today.
Yeah.
Um, I would like to take a moment to thank you very much for being in this program today. I think it's been an excellent presentation in
Thank you
which
so
there
much.
was a lot of also a topic that is very good, especially when it comes towards industrial automation. Is not the first thing that people typically think about. So I think
Yeah.
with your solution is quite a clever approach on how to deal with that
Yeah.
to structurally set that
Thank you
up
so
in terms
much.
of these data
Yeah.
pipelines. It's very good.
An honor.
Thanks so much for being with us today, and yeah, I look forward to hearing from you again in the future.
Yeah,
Definitely.
definitely. Yeah. Thank you so much, and thank you, CBN, having me here today, and thank you those who have been able to join me today. And I'm not sure whether I can show back my screen of the email address, or probably on the chat.
Yeah, maybe it's easy if you put it in the chat because then
Yeah,
people can immediately copy paste it
yeah,
because they cannot copy paste from the screen. But yes,
yeah.
definitely put it
I,
in
I, I
the
put
chat.
in an email on my chat. If you, let's say you have a questions, or you might need our team to do an assessment for you. Where do you start? How do you start? Please do not hesitate. Just drop me an email, and I'm more than happy actually to help. Yeah, and
Very
that's
good. Thank you
what I
so much.
yeah. Thank you so much. Have a
Good.
great.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. For everyone else, note that we're already going to start our next sessions in around a little less than half an hour from now. And we once again have three very interesting tracks, which are going to promise to be very great speakers for the next upcoming hour. You need to make a choice to either go listen to Dr. Mazin from the Dubai Health Authority. He's calling in to talk about hyper automation in healthcare. That's promising to be a very interesting session. And he's going to share some lessons learned. He called it the good, the bad, and the future, which I think is a very good title and which is promising to be a very interesting session. The second speaker is Navardana from Tikri. She's going to talk about process mining and the application of data science on process mining in general. And last but not least, Jasdeep from Zebra will be talking about how to modernize your warehouse and which automation technologies you could use in order to accomplish that. So once again, three great speakers are coming up. Pick your choice, and we look forward to seeing you back in a little bit more than 20 minutes from now.